From the moment our eyes open in the morning, we are just swimming in a sea of words. Texts on our phones, the writing on our cereal box, the news, and every single one of them wants something from us. They're trying to inform us, persuade us, or sell us something. So today, we're going to become decoders. We're going to pull back the curtain and uncover the hidden messages in the nonfiction texts we see every single day.
I mean, really think about it for a second. Before you've even had your coffee, how many different pieces of nonfiction have you already scanned or read? I bet the number is way higher than you think.
They are absolutely everywhere you look, right? It could be the back of that cereal box promising all its health benefits, an article in a newspaper, a review for a new video game, or even one of those leaflets that just shows up in your mailbox.
So let's dive in. Every single one of those texts has a specific purpose, a job it's designed to do. And by the end of this little explainer, you'll be able to spot exactly what that job is. You're going to go from being just a reader to a full-on decoder.
Okay, first things first. Let's get on the same page. When we say nonfiction, what we're talking about is pretty simple. It's any writing that's based on facts. It's not a made-up story. It's not a fantasy novel. It's any text that's rooted in the real world.
All right, let's start our day like many people do, by grabbing the morning news. This is such a classic example because the way a story is told can totally change everything, depending on where you happen to be reading it.
Okay, so check this out. Both of these newspapers are talking about the news, but their form, the way they're built, completely changes the message. On one hand, you've got the tabloid. It uses short, punchy sentences and really emotional language to create a super sensational story. On the other hand, the broadsheet uses longer, more complex sentences and a much more formal tone to come across as serious and analytical.
So let's look at a real-world example from a broadsheet, the Financial Times. The headline itself makes a very direct statement, and its purpose is crystal clear. It's here to explain the secret to Singapore's educational success for an audience that's really interested in business and achievement.
Now, listen closely to the exact words the writer chose here. Focus on that language, a speck of land, something that is dwarfed. What kind of picture does that paint in your head?
And what you're seeing is a brilliant and powerful literary device, the metaphor. See, by making Singapore sound incredibly tiny, the writer makes its massive success in math feel even more amazing, almost like a miracle. That's not an accident. It's a deliberate choice to make an audience that's interested in success stories just sit back in awe.
Okay, so we're done with the news for now. Let's move on and see what's waiting for us in the mailbox. This is where we run into texts that are often designed for one thing and one thing only: persuasion.
And right there on your doormat, you could find two totally different types of nonfiction. One might be a very official-looking letter from a school, and right next to it, a colorful leaflet trying to get you to bake cakes for a local charity.
The formal letter, well, it plays by a very strict set of rules to show that it means business. It's got a polite opening, it gets right to the point, it keeps a respectful tone throughout, and it signs off with a conventional closing. Every single step is there to reinforce its formal purpose.
But the leaflet? Oh, it's playing a completely different game. It's using imperatives. Those are direct commands like get baking. It uses the really catchy rule of 3 to list off benefits, and fun alliteration, that's repeating sounds, in phrases like crazy for cake. The whole thing is designed to hit you right in the emotions, not appeal to your sense of formality.
So, we've seen texts that inform and texts that persuade, but some nonfiction has an even more interesting goal: to entertain you at the same time it's informing you. And biographies are a perfect place to see this in action.
Yeah, this is often called literary nonfiction. It's 100% factual, but it borrows tricks from the novelist playbook. Things like creating suspense or using really vivid descriptions to make a true story feel just as gripping as a great novel. Take this description, for example, from the very beginning of a biography. The writer focuses in on just one person in a crowd, describing how he looks, his wealth. He's made to sound really important, almost like the hero in a romance novel. But we have no idea who he is yet. And surprise! It's Charles Dickens. See, by holding his name back, the author creates suspense. It's a classic fiction technique, and it's used here to hook you as a reader and make you desperate to find out more. It turns a simple factual account into a compelling story from the very first paragraph. All right, our day is winding down, and it's time to decide what to watch tonight. So you turn to our final text for today, the movie review. But a good critic? They're doing so much more than just giving a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
A really great review is actually juggling 5 different goals all at once. It has to inform you, describe things, entertain you, analyze what it's seeing, and then finally advise you on whether something is actually worth your time and money.
So let's look at this review of the film The Golden Compass. First, the critic points out something cool. They describe the amazing spectacle of a girl riding on the back of an armored polar bear. That's the descriptive part, and it's designed to spark our sense of wonder.
But a good critic never stops there. They also point out a pretty big flaw, that all this amazing buildup doesn't really lead to a satisfying payoff. This right here is the analysis, where they start to weigh the good against the bad.
And this very important technique is called balanced criticism. By showing you both the good and the bad, the critic builds trust with you. They're not just shouting an opinion, they're showing you their work. And that trust is exactly what makes their final recommendation so powerful.
So, from a newspaper article and a charity leaflet to a biography and a film review, we've kind of peeked behind the curtain at the hidden mechanics of the texts we read every single day.
And this, right here, is the single most important thing to take away from all of this. Every piece of nonfiction is a careful recipe of 3 key ingredients: its form, its intended audience, and its real purpose. Once you learn to see how those 3 things are working together, you're not just a passive reader anymore. You become a decoder.
So I'm going to leave you with this question. The very next text you come across today, whether it's a news alert on your phone, an ad you scroll past, or an email from your boss, just take one extra second and ask yourself, what does this text really want from me?